Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, as always with these transmitters, I'm going to do a whole bunch of quick vids on different menu items and that to help you find out how to set up your RC with the G11P. So, we've got the video where we've got it all bound up. I'm just going to run through a few at basics. So, we're going to deal with reverse endpoints and subtrims. And this is going to be useful if you get your RC and then you find your steering wheel's turning wrong way. So on this one, it's turning correct. But in here, we can reverse all as channels. So you'd literally just come in. So if we set this to normal, then back out, and we go to as monitor, you can see the steering is turning the wrong way. So if you swap your servo or you put it in an RC, you bind up and your servo's wrong, your servo reverse menu, this is where we're going to reverse it. Now, as I've said in the setup video for it, one thing you've got to remember is if you reverse a channel, it's going to move its center point. So again, once you've reversed a servo, you're then going to drop to your subtrim to make sure your wheels are straight. And by moving this up or down, increase or decrease it, move it left or right, you're going to change where your center point is. And your subtrim is the same for all these. So if for whatever reason you need to center a servo, so if you've got a shift gear or something and you want to center your servo horn, once you've set up the correct direction in the reverse menu, you'd then drop to this sub menu for subtrim, and you're going to set your high and low point, or if it's steering, left and right, if it's throttle, back and forward. But it just helps to correct the actual servo so it's starting in the right place. Then once you've done that, we've got us endpoints, so we can go in, and if we need to turn these up or down, you can do it on here. And you've got your left and your right, so if you move it all the way to left and then start adjusting your endpoint, you can see it'll drop down the amount of steering you've got. And your only goal here is to make it so as your servo reaches the end of its travel, it's no longer straining. So let's see if I can get you a bit of a view at servo. But basically, you do not want your servo straining past the point of full lock on your steering. And it's a bit same thing if you're setting up a gear selector or a diff lock and unlock. Depending on what channel you'd got set, you'd drop in here and you'd press your button or your switch to move it all the way to one side, and then you'd come on and back it down. Like most transmitters, you can go up above the travel. This is useful. Usually if you buy an aftermarket servo, you've got plenty of travel. Sometimes, like with the Losi Micro B, it's handy to have that extra bit of travel in one direction or other. And these will go up to 150. So 100% is your normal servo travel. And then you have got all the rest up to 150. And you can drop this all the way down to 0. If you drop it to 0, then your servo will only move one way and back to center, and the center will be wherever your subtrim's fitted, wherever your subtrim's set. Now this can be useful, especially in crawlers. If you're using diff unlocks with the micro servos, you maybe don't want travel in the opposite direction at all. It's just enough to travel one direction, just to take the diff lock off. And if you move the other direction to 0, it then gives you the benefit that the servo will not try and travel in that direction. And it stops you breaking micro servos or the little servo arms or servo horns, depending on what you want to call them. But as stock travel, it's 100% in either direction. And with these, I would deal with them in that order. I'd set the servo reverse to make sure your servo's moving in the right direction. Likewise, with your ESC on your throttle, if you set the direction first, make sure when you pull trigger, your car goes forward. When you brake, it brakes. When you reverse, it reverses. Before you then go in setting anything else. and lastly it'd be your endpoints. But that's just a quick breakdown of what these first three sub-menus do. I kind of wish that they'd swapped EPA and Subtrim so you could do it in order: servo, reverse, Subtrim, and then your endpoints. But for any servo that you change, you really want to be coming in here, definitely checking your reverse, make sure it moves in the right direction. Set your Subtrim, and that lets you zero it, and then you're not relying on your actual trims. So if we back out, although on this one, if I go in and have a look at my Subtrim for my steering, I moved it right 27 and it's reversed, so it's actually left. But if we look on as actual main screen, as steering trim is still 0. So if I do move that, you can see it actually moves on the RC. But it's nice to have it on 0 and the wheels be perfectly aligned straight forward, and it's your sub trim that allows you to do that. You also then don't lose the full 120 trim either side, which is useful to have. It does let you set them up a lot better. If you're running an ESC, I know I said it in my last video, but if you are running an ESC, once you've set your servo reverse or left it normal, you do need to run calibration on your ESC to make sure you're getting 100% throttle. It knows what the neutral position is and 100% reverse. It's a dead giveaway on some. You've got lights that flash. So if I just put a bit of throttle on, if as soon as you turn your transmitter on, you're seeing that on your ESC, it's a good indication it's not calibrated. So just look out for flashing light, or maybe you go 100% throttle, but that's all you're getting. It's a good indication calibration's out on your ESC. It's just a way of telling your ESC where the high point, the midpoint, and the low point is on your throttle. But yeah, the main reason for doing this is just to explain these first three menus, and I'm going to be working my way down. There's not a lot on each one of these, so I didn't see any point doing a separate video on reversing, endpoints and subtrim, because they all kind of go hand in hand. And the main takeaway is make sure your servo reverse or normal set to get your operation in the correct direction. Then go to subtrim, make sure it's zeroed, then set your endpoints. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining, or just like listening to my incessant ramblings. But don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.